Hi, greetings. This is Samir from Red Kite. How are you today? I'm sure probably not the best. These are tough times. And while tough times do not last, tough people do. We at Red Kite strongly believe in that because we will help you to build careers which will help you navigate through the roughest of times, the strongest of winds of change, become more resilient, fly high, even higher. All right, so who are we? Red Kite Consulting, and of course, I leave that to our founder directors to talk to you more about it. But Red Kite Consulting has been in the business of executive search for over a decade. We have lakhs of followers on the social media put together. A lot of these followers come from hospitality background and the allied set of industries that we operate with. Over the year, from the time Corona began, Red Kite, of course, has redesigned and metamorphosize itself to become more of a consulting practice. We have various verticals which will help you right from an education perspective if you're a student, um, to executive search if you're someone who's looking for a job, to various other set of services. Of course, I will not tell you what the website is all about because today clicking on a website is just a seconds away. Do visit us www.redkite.co.in. All right, so why am I here? What's the purpose? Yes, these are tough times. Yes, there is corona everywhere. There's a lot of despair. In a recent hiring that we were doing for about more than 500 people for an employer, a very reputed employer, Pan India, we realized that there are lakhs of people who reached out to us. I mean, in thousands, for every set of positions. Mostly those who've lost their jobs, who've been affected by the ongoing pandemic. We don't know what's the end of this, but what we do know is that whether this lasts for another 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, what's important is not how long will it last, but how did I use this time of a challenge which is beyond human control, to a certain extent. What did I do to create value for myself? And I think this particular episode that I'm going to talk to you about, whether you're a general manager, a sales and marketing head, a food and beverage employee, a software programmer, an educator, a teacher, a professor, a dean, um, a security guard, a commie, whatever you may be. What's important is to understand that while some of us have been negatively affected and we've lost our jobs, some have been retrenched, some are on leave for an indefinite period. Those who were internationally posted have come back to India, looking out for other opportunities of allied industries, etc. What is very important at this point of time is to use this time of change and a negative world impact to your own benefit. And how can you do that, right? How can I not be affected by corona is not the subject of this discussion. How do I not let corona impact my career for tomorrow, day after, and the decades beyond this? So multiple things. Most importantly, of course, a lot of this element of not being affected is a personal, an individual choice. Do you want to get up every morning saying I am affected and therefore not to do anything about it, or say that while yes there is a challenge that is happening around me, I will not get affected by it. I will ride over these adversities, like the rough waves, and sail over it. And how do you sail over it? Red Kite, of course, has multiple solutions that we're going to talk about to you. And the first one, let's say that you're looking for a job because your job has been impacted, because of this pandemic. The first thing, which a lot of us do not realize now, some of us are very experienced, some of us have had a few years of experience in the industry. But there is always a time to invest on one own self. And the easiest way to do that is to start with resume. Why resume? Because that's the first set of document or a moment of truth that any employer gets to see or read about you. So at Red Tide, we have this whole set of services that we offer for the candidate services, and I'm to spend a little time talking to you about some of these services and why are they important in the current date and time. So how often have we revisited our resume? What has worked for me in the past may not necessarily work for me in the future. if I've not invested on myself, apart from looking for a job, which I think some of us may be doing actively, spending hours together in a regimented, structured way to look at industries one after the other, reaching out to people, connecting with people, talking over the phone call, etc. But let's just pause for a moment. And the first step in the recruitment cycle is, of course, reaching out to the right recruiter, which, of course, Red Kite will help you. So if you've not done that, go ahead, visit our website, go around to the candidate services section, and apply with your full details in terms of your past experience and your preferred set of next employment that you're looking for. So while you've done that, let's just look at your CV now. Okay, so you've got the employer, or you've got a channel which will help you to connect to an employer. I'm sure there are many others. You can try them out. Whichever works for you is great. We assure you about what we can do, and we were extremely confident about our set of offerings, which are unique and distinctive, probably tailor made to a certain extent. Okay, now you've got Red Kite's platform to reach out to an employer, right? So we're the catalyst, and we help you connect with various set of employers, basis your skill set and the preferences you've given. Every resume is in detail, screened and understood for by our recruitment team before we even apply on your behalf to any other company. But is your resume good enough? I mean, sure, it's modern, it's fancy looking, it's colorful, it's got the best font, which hardly a few computers have in the world. Is that good enough? How do you critique your resume? One probably can't, because one's been running the whole process of building the resume oneself. Or even if you've taken a help of an internet cafe guy, he typically does what he does. He has his few templates and he keeps using them time and again to be able to churn out your resume as well. So what's new? You know, very simple, very simple. Resume is of course going to talk about the kind of experience you've had. But one small little submission about typically how we see resumes. Very often, resumes talk about paragraphs of the employer, the kind of brands you work with, and we have this huge set of words being used to talk or describe the brand. But is the brand more important, or what you've done with the brand more important? So I think a very small thing, but we end up very often talking more about the brands that we work with and what's the global presence of the brand, how many hotels that it have, or how many restaurants that it operates globally, etc. The brand's not important. What's important is what have you done with the brand, and what are your significant contributions, and what are your significant achievements that you've had with the experience that you've had in the past. Some of us traditionally continue with one industry over a period of time, while many of us happen to switch industries. Now, either which ways, whether you've switched industry or you've continued with one industry, year on year, with as you gain more and more position, does the role that you're trying to describe, aptly capture those kind of responsibilities? So there is no point if you're a chef, for example, there is no point talking about just cost control if that is what you've done all your career. Let's say that you are 10-year experienced chef, then what's more important is the kind of associations that you've had, the kind of relationships you've built, which is probably more important, and the revenues that you've driven for the organization. Now, a chef typically is not responsible for driving revenues. But if you do talk about that, that helps the employer get an understanding of how directly involved is your function or were you as an individual with the output of the organization. So that's just one, and let's just say that's the start of what we want to offer to you. You've got now a great resume, and we help you connect with the employer. Then comes this whole element about pre-preparing for an interview. Very often, we don't do that. We take it either too lightly, or we are too busy in our own regular day-to-day roles, if you're working, to prepare for the next set of interview. And I think that's a very important requisite if one needs to be successful in the times to come. Because an interview is a dialogue that you have between an employer and yourself as an employee or a potential employee. What differentiates and what excites employers is the kind of groundwork that you've done, the research that you've had, plus the kind of question that you will ask them. If you ask the right kind of questions to an employer during an interview or the recruiter during the interview, and I think kind of sets you apart from many others. There are many other skills. I mean, this whole little series is going to talk more and about these candidate services, skills, uh, the kind of competencies, the kind of personal traits that we would want you to carry with you when you are ready, for your next set of interviews. So, like I said earlier, it's not important whether you'll get a job or not at this point of time, because we strongly believe that you will. I don't know whether you believe or not, but we strongly believe that you will get a right job very soon. The question is, what are you going to tell the employer? What did you do for the last 6 months, 1 year, 2 year that you were not employed? Yeah. Did you just keep trying for jobs? Because that's not good enough today, you know. And you're not the only one. There are lakhs of people being impacted by this global pandemic, right? Not just in India, but around the world. So the only differentiating factor will be, when the next set of interview happens for you, is what did you do differently? How did you invest in yourself? Of course, you've got a great resume now. What about apart from that? How about upskilling? How about learning something new that you think will add value to your next employer? You know, at Red Kite, we have a bouquet of services and a bouquet of offerings in terms of you to be able to gain another degree if you've not had a degree, in an international degree. We can help you with e-learning courses. We'll be more than happy to support you with counseling programs to grow, more about confidence building, etc. There is also this whole need right now for us to be able to start seeing the world differently and get ready to be employed not just by one industry, but be available to do any kind of work for industries that are growing. And there are a lot of industries that are growing today. Just this morning, right? So just this morning, I read this article from Forbes, which talks about I think 44 new billionaires which got added out in this world, all around the Corona time. And these are people who've either supported the vaccine drives or have built PPE or have even simply done the manufacturing of masks. So there is always a silver lining to the dark cloud, and the silver lining in the dark cloud for you is probably to invest the time in yourself. Reach out to the right kind of people. Red Kite's definitely your preferred choice. And when you do reach out to us, we will be able to help you to understand where do you stand basis what you've done in the past, uh, the kind of resume that you have, what could be done better, etc. Are you aspiring to work internationally? If yes, and what are the options that are available to you? Are you wanting to change industries? If yes, then what's the kind of a path that you need to embark into to be able to be uh, multi-industry ready? So, like I was talking about industries that have done well. In Indian scenario, of course, the ITES set of services, software as a service, the supply chain part, and companies like I read in the morning today. One of the companies that has done very well in around the world is a company that did artificial intelligence and built this virus tracking software in Wuhan, which has helped them to become a global billion-dollar enterprise. So it's a lot about seeing things differently, and probably one cannot. Like typically, one needs a psychiatrist, a good doctor. It's time for you to get the right career counselor or an advisor who is working on your behalf and helping you to reach out to the next set of challenge and threshold. Someone is probably pushing you to be able to do get a better version of you in a certain sense. So that's what we aspire to do in Red Kite. Having said that, do not forget to visit our website today, www.redkite.co.in. Of course, you can get to see all our consulting practices, but to all of you who are connected with me today through this video series and probably the audio series as well, do spend more time on the candidate services section. We'll of course be giving you further inputs about how do you navigate through these rough times, how do you build a sail that'll help you ride over the toughest and the most roughest waves on the sea of life. And what we're seeing right now is no no little challenge which has impacted millions of people, trillions of people around the world. But of course, this too shall pass, and I'm sure all of us will be victors. We at Red Kite are committed to help you navigate through this, win for yourself, fly high, fly with the Red Kite. So thank you very much. Look forward to reconnecting with you soon. Take good care, stay safe, follow all the protocols to be able to prevent the spread of corona or COVID. Uh, it's all about you, and that's what we're committed for. All the very best. Thank you for listening in. Bye bye.